Thank you for joining us today. I wanted to start off with how I found out about some of the recent events and why we're having our program. I had just landed in Vegas on Monday the 2nd after spending the weekend in Long Beach with Zoe Nicholson helping her move. And when I got a text from Cy Burnaby, one of our speakers today, and the text said, "I can't believe the Supreme Court, what a sad day." I had been on a plane for just an hour and I checked the news and saw that the Supreme Court, what they intended to do and what we have feared for 50 years was happening to overturn Roe. So we rallied with about 200 people the next day at the federal building. Nevada Now joined other progressive groups yesterday at the Bands Off Our Body rallies in Las Vegas. Samantha Glover was up in Reno for us. And we were really encouraged by the young people and in the event itself and learning how to get involved. But we need everyone to get active. We're hearing from young people that they want to get involved. That is inspiring. But literally everything that the National Organization for Women has worked for 50 years is in danger and being overturned, not just Roe. So reading about Alito's draft, he also cites precedents barring states from criminalizing or blocking people from buying and using contraception, sexual intercourse between consenting adults of the same sex, interracial or same-sex marriages. And like abortion rights, these rights involve personal freedoms that are not mentioned in the Constitution, but whose existence the Supreme Court has inferred from the 14th Amendment. It limits the government's ability to take away people's liberty unfairly, which courts have interpreted as implying a right to privacy and personal autonomy over decisions involving people's bodies and relationships. So we believe that now more than ever, we need the 28th Amendment, the Equal Rights Amendment, which we were just talking about, to be published. Nevada was a 36th state. We have the 38 states needed, and President Biden has promised he would make it a priority to publish it, but it's still stuck. And we think that we've been too careful to not tie abortion rights to the Equal Rights Amendment. I'm going to put the Columbia Law School's ERA project opinion in the chat. They cite that there's many areas the ERA will protect the right to abortion and reproductive care, health care. And also our Nevada State ERA will be on the ballot this year. Nevada Now is really involved with the Nevadans for Equal Rights Ballot Committee. If you're in an organization or an individual who is, in an organization who want to be involved, there's already a PAC being formed with the Secretary of State. We're getting organized to educate Nevadans on the state ERA ballot question. And our state ERA, it covers everything. It covers race, color, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, age, disability, ancestry, or national origin. So this is equality for all in our state ERA. And we need to get out the vote, obviously. No matter what issue is most important to you, we need to vote for every office on the ballot. Every office, every election matters. So today we invited people we want to hear from who are advocates for the LGBTQ community to find out how we can get involved, what actions we can take. And then we'll also hear from Nevada Now PAC candidates to meet some of them that we've endorsed for judicial offices and the district attorney's office and learn why courts matter, why these offices are so important. So first, I want to introduce our board, and then we're going to cover a couple little events coming up and we'll get to it. So I am Jerry Burton. I'm the co-executive director for programs and the coalition coordinator. Sue Birch is our co-executive director for legislative and our PAC coordinator. Eva Love is the director of membership and volunteer coordinator. Madalena Robertson is our director of technology and media. Sarah Evans is the director of fundraising. Michelle Maese is our director for outreach. Laura Campbell is the director for actions. Samantha Glover up in Reno is our director of youth outreach and our newest board member. Tricia Methner is the secretary, and Lenorian Briley is our treasurer. So that's everybody. There's 10 of us. So we've got a nice, wonderful board. So some of the events coming up. we've all been recently doing a lot of campaign or interviewing candidates, and have endorsed a bunch of candidates, and we've got a few more we're going to do. So we've been volunteering at events for our Nevada Now PAC endorsed candidates. We're going to be doing a lot more of that in the next weeks to come. We are canvassing, making phone calls, writing postcards, so we could use your help there in whatever capacity you're able to. And if you could email us to info@nevadanow.org and tell us how you'd like to volunteer. We need lots of folks out. We're going to have an event on the 28th, Nevada Now and Gina Blackman's Everyday People Taking Action. We're going to have an event at Gina's house. We'll be giving out the address by email, so we're not giving her address out all the time. We're going to be celebrating the first day of early voting. And so we're calling it BYB, Bring Your Ballot and Brunch. And we'll be celebrating that first day and looking over the Nevada Now PAC endorsed candidates and inviting some of the candidates probably will be attending the event as well. So that's on May 28th from 11 to 1. And then Samantha Glover is representing Nevada Now in Reno yesterday at the rally, and she's also started the Nevada chapter of Generation Ratify. And so I was hoping Samantha could take a minute to let us know how people can get involved in what she's working on up north. Samantha?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jerry. I just wanted to share a bit about what Generation Ratify is and what we advocate for. So I just launched as the, I guess, director, founder, I don't really have a title yet, for Generation Ratify in Nevada, because believe it or not, Nevada has never had a youth-powered and advocacy organization to advocate for the ratification of the ERA. Although we do focus on ERA ratification, Generation Ratify also works on intersectional gender justice, which, goes hand in hand with the ERA, like Jerry was saying. But it's a youth-led advocacy organization, and there is over 55 chapters in 23 states fighting for the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Generation Ratify leverages both legislative and judicial avenues. It's under the sponsorship of the International Women's Democracy Center, and it empowers youth to engage with congressional representatives advocating for ratification, and it also provides resources for individuals to support the movement. So Generation Ratify has more than 5,500 members, and it functions as a chapter-based network on a local, regional, and national level. So Nevada's Generation Ratify chapter, in our, I guess, the few coming years, our goals are obviously to help advocate for the ratification of our state ERA, because young people in Nevada are the largest voting bloc, and Generation Ratify is targeting this voting bloc, which is the largest, to help in the ratification of the ERA, as well as working in this next legislative session and supporting pieces of legislation that really solidify intersectional gender justice. So if you know any young people who would be willing to join Generation Ratify in Nevada, or want to participate at any level, I'll put my contact information in the chat and they can reach out to me. The one last thing, though, that's very exciting that Generation Ratify is working on is the National Generation Ratify is hosting a nationwide walkout for abortion rights this Wednesday. And so I have been organizing and helping organizers at every single school that has reached out to me organize an abortion walkout in their high school. So right now we have 6 high schools participating. The majority of them are in Las Vegas. So it's Coronado High School, Clark High School, West Career and Technical Academy, and I'm not sure the full name, but ATEC, are all hosting abortion rights walkouts at their schools, as well as Reno High and South Reno. So I have all the resources, materials, anything any young person would need, and they don't need any experience to organize. They just have to reach out to me, and I'll help them every step of the way organize this walkout. And it is not too late. Even though the walkout's on Wednesday, we're hoping to get as many people to turn out as possible. And it's looking like there will be a decent amount of students organizing, so that's super exciting.
That's so exciting. And to know that you've been doing this for just a couple weeks or a week and already have so much organized. And anybody who knows Samantha knows she's just a whirlwind. So we worked with her on her period products bill in the legislature, and that's how we met. And she's just amazing. So we can't say enough about Samantha. So let's get back to I was looking at my notes trying to find I
have a question for Samantha, Jerry.
Yes, go ahead.
showed up to the rally in Reno yesterday.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Laura. The rally in Reno that was hosted by Planned Parenthood, the Bands Off Our Bodies rally, I tabled for both Nevada Now and Generation Ratify, and I went through almost all 100 business cards for Nevada Now. So hopefully we'll have a lot more engagement on our Facebook page and get some more people joining our virtual events, which is really exciting, and sharing the message about now in Northern Nevada. It was also really successful for Generation Ratify. So good news all around.
Great, thank you. So let's get to our program. Our speakers today are a panel that we've invited. Cy Burnaby is the Executive Director of Gender Justice Nevada. Percy, I should have asked you how to say your last name. Percy Novez? Am I close?
Naves.
Naves? Okay, thank you. Youth Resource Specialist at the LGBTQ Plus Center of Southern Nevada, and Nevada Senator Melanie Scheibel. These are longtime friends of ours, and people, except for Percy, who's a new friend, has not been on our program before. So I think we'll start with Cy. Cy's been a regular on our programs, and we always know we can turn to Cy to learn and find out how to be a good activist and advocate. And we knew once we heard how this was going, these decisions were going to affect us in so many ways, that we had to learn that we can do as activists and allies. And so, Cy, thank you for joining us yet again, and I'll leave it to you next.
Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start with the
How do you feel about, let's start with, kind of what we talked to you when we got on a little bit ago, but how do you feel about what we're hearing about the decision that's coming down, and how that's going to affect LGBTQ people with some of these issues? We know, they've said so in the brief. It's not like we're guessing. We know this is going to happen. So maybe start with that, and then, how people can get involved.
Well, I think, the fortunate thing is that I think a lot of people in the LGBTQ community are progressive and hopefully, are pro-choice and are voting for those candidates, and that we understand that all of our, liberation is linked. And we look at that, we look at racial justice, we look at women's rights, we look at reproductive rights, we look at queer rights, that those are all linked, that we are better together in these fights, that we have a common oppressor who wants to see us all without rights and who wants to see us all where we were 100 years ago. So it's not shocking to me at all that we saw within the verbiage in this brief that they are going to be going after other groups as well. That they are not going to stop with that. I think once you have the majority of the Supreme Court, you're going to take that for the longest ride that you can go. You're not going to stop at just outlawing abortion and limiting reproductive rights. You're going after everybody. And I have no doubt that in 2024, that man is going to try to get back into the White House. So I feel like we have to brace ourselves. And the queer community, to be honest, I think we've gotten complacent in the last 7 years since marriage. We're like, oh, everything's great, everything's fine. And the fact is, this year has been the absolute worst year on record for anti-LGBTQ legislation. As of March, there was 238 bills, half of them attacking transgender people, but all going after different kinds of queer rights, access to healthcare, employment rights, things like that. The progress we have made is good, but they're coming after us next. And I can't ring that alarm louder for the queer community, so that we get off our asses and we join with other groups and other movements to stop this, because it's gonna keep going. And, we're a big voting bloc and we have a lot of power. And what's really interesting to me is that if you look at when they do public polling, the majority of Americans are for a person's right to choose over, when it comes to abortion, the majority of Americans are pro-choice, right? And when we look at queer rights, 79% of Americans support protections for LGBTQ people. Even gay marriage, 70% of people support that and are okay with that. In 2014, it was 54%. Then they passed it, and then all of our allies came out like, oh, we're okay with you getting married. So we have the majority of the support from the American people. The problem is we don't have the Supreme Court. And we don't, and as of these midterms, I'm not sure what kind of control we're going to have when it comes to the federal government. I have no clue. But I know this, the LGBTQ community doesn't wake up and start fighting with other people now, and that means feminists, and that means other progressive groups, and that means BLM, if we all don't get in this game right now, years from now, we're all going to be sitting around with no rights, period.
And we agree. So we've talked about this many times. One of the things that I had thought about inviting you before, Laura had told me she was having some conversations with people about, why pronouns were important, why, supporting trans people, not necessarily in that conversation, but in others. And so she asked if we'd had programs before on that. And I said, I had been on to talk about that very thing and how it affects, people that you've taught us that we need to use the correct pronouns, to be respectful. We talked to a teacher who said that she champions her students, in the counseling office, and sometimes in junior high, they change pronouns, several times while they're in that age, learning who they are. Maybe speak on that a little bit and how,
Well, I think as far as allyship goes, there's one thing that I've seen that really pisses me off lately. And it's this sentiment of, I'm with you and I'm with you, I'm with you. It's cool. I'm cool with that, but I think you're going too far on this part, right? And people tend to do this as allies, whether it's towards communities of color or whether it's towards immigrant communities, like, oh, we're with you, but this is too much, or the messaging is too much, or no. You don't have the right as outsiders to tell us how to be activists and what we need, because I can tell you how important it is. My pronouns, they, them are very important. And if you don't believe in it, or that's cool, whatever, but just, quiet, right? So, and let us lead the movements. And I see this a lot of times with activists who are like, man, I really want to support them, but they're going a little too far with the pronoun thing, or too far with all the labels. It's overwhelming. What's overwhelming is the amount of hate crimes that we've had to endure just in the past couple of years against people in the trans community. That's overwhelming. That's a lot. So for the people, the respectability politics people who are like, well, I just think we should be framing it this way, and we should be, no. If you're not in the community, you don't get to dictate how we message and what we demand for our liberation and our justice and our rights. On the other point, I think what you were asking what allies can do, donate money, give money, just like with reproductive justice, we need these abortion clinics, the ones that are open, to stay open. So send your money there. Send money to queer-centered, trans-led organizations that are doing the work on the ground. If you can't send money, then go to their website, learn about them, Google some stuff. Text me. I put my number there in the chat, or email me for a really quick ally training. I will go over pronouns. I will go over all the labels for you. I will tell you the historical context of trans athletes, and I'll tell you how to message around that. But yeah, sign up for like a training, because you can't say that you are an ally to any marginalized group if you don't know about that group. If you're not educated about them and their oppression and their history and what's going on with them, then you're not an ally. You're not an active ally. You're just more of a performative, and you're just putting a bumper sticker on your car. So, give me a call or email me so that we can get together and we can educate each other.
Wow. Thank you. That's powerful. And maybe what Gender Justice is working on right now. And you had maybe your website that you could let us know.
Yeah, their website is genderjusticenv.org. We're also on all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. I mean, right now it's mostly education, because Pride Month is coming up. So that's why you're seeing all the rainbows at Target right now. It's Pride Month, yay. But like also during Pride Month, like learn, reach out to people in the community, ask them how you can help them, and like watch some movies, like go watch Disclosure on Netflix about trans in media. Go check that out. Watch some movies, watch some TV shows, like get educated about that kind of stuff, because Pride Month is coming up. We've got 2 big Pride events. We've got Pahrump Pride next month. And then this weekend is Henderson Pride Festival, which is out at Lake Las Vegas. So like come out to a Pride event. Like even if you're straight, it's cool. Come out. Like, you can come. It's cool. We'll let you in, be respectful, be cool about it. But come down to a Pride event, support the queer community that way.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to learn what organizations are,
Mm-hmm.
that you can get involved with and can donate to. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so speaking of youth, and as you were, maybe we should go on to Percy and learn what Percy's doing with LGBTQ youth. He's the youth resource specialist at LGBTQ Center in Southern Nevada. And so I was talking to Percy right before I got on the plane in Long Beach, not knowing that news was coming. And so we were talking about what LGBTQ youth are doing. And then we also afterwards said, let's see how they're feeling now with this new Supreme Court, the news about the Supreme Court, and how we can support the work they're doing at the center. So thanks for joining us, Percy. It's good to meet you in a box, but see your face.
Yes, it's nice to have a face to the name. Happy to be here. So I work at the center here in town, and I run the group Qvolution. That's our youth group for ages 13 to 17, and it's for LGBTQ youth as well as allies. And we try to keep things fun. We hold board game nights. But one thing I've tried to implement since I got hired on in September of last year is having discussions with them about topical things that are happening, whether that's in the news or just like how school is doing for them. So one thing that I was very interested in knowing about when it was just very apparent that it wasn't slowing down, and as Sai said, over 200 laws have been written since March that are specifically targeting trans and non-binary youth. And I want to emphasize the youth part because at the end of the day, these are in fact children, and they're not being treated as such. So what I did, it must have been a couple months ago at this point, I asked them in a group, I was like, how is this all making you feel when you see these things happening in Texas and Oklahoma? How are these laws being written, and being taken seriously in some states? What about here in Nevada? How does that make you feel here? And a lot of them are angry. They're angry, quickly followed by afraid, because as much as Nevada is good to us here as far as protecting our LGBTQ rights and seeing us as, whole individuals, the fact that it's even happening in these other states makes them think, I'm next. Are we next? Is this something that's going to start happening in Nevada? And they already have enough to worry about as kids. They have school, they have their, they're figuring themselves out, whether that's dating or their family dynamics. Everything's up in the air and changing constantly. They shouldn't have to worry about their rights as well. They should just get to be kids. And so I also wanted to talk about how the fact that this is all happening after COVID, I'll just explain what the Trevor Project is. So the Trevor Project is an organization that focuses on LGBTQ youth mental health. And they did a survey back in October 2020 to December 2020. And they asked over 80,000 LGBTQ youth about anything from like their living situation to their jobs. But then they also included a portion of questions about COVID. And 94% of LGBTQ youth reported that recent politics negatively impacted their mental health. So that was back in 2021, before all of these laws were even brought to our attention and were even happening. So almost 100% of the youth were affected in some way. And so if that was happening back in 2020, it's only compounded since then in 2022. And then another statistic, only 1 in 3 LGBTQ youth found their home to be LGBTQ affirming. And what were we all doing during the pandemic? We were at home. And then 49% reported that none of the people respected their pronouns in their home. Again, we'll round that up and say 50, so about 40,000 youth. And what was the last? Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Want to make sure I get these numbers right. And I'm going to post the survey in the chat after I'm done speaking because it's got a lot of relevant and really impactful information. Nearly 60% of transgender and non-binary youth said that COVID-19 impacted their ability to express their gender identity. And again, that goes back to the 1 in 3 not being in an affirming household. So as far as things that you can do after hearing all of this, very much like what Sai said, support LGBTQ organizations. But if you're looking for something you can do that's actually happening in the near future, our LGBTQ prom is going to be at the end of the month on May 28th, and we are accepting candy donations. I'm going to put the link in the chat. So if you are able to donate any type of candy, there's a link, and you can drop it off at the center. No pressure. And I will also put the link to the prom in the chat as well. This is open to youth ages 13 to 24, and it's a completely free event. We're going to have food, dancing, and we're going to have a bunch of awesome performers as well. I think that's it.
That sounds wonderful. And also maybe any way that people can learn about what you're doing at the center, that, maybe they have youth that would like to get involved or an organization that would like to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow us on Instagram. You could either follow us at the Center LV, and that's our main organization, or you could also follow us at Qvolution LV, and that's specifically the youth group that we have at the center. So you'll see all the events and any like job opportunities and trainings that we like to share with, the youth that follow us on our social media accounts.
And I see a question in the chat asking if there's any youth groups up north or in East Nevada. Do you know of anybody up north that's working?
I do, actually, yes. So up in Reno, the center they have there is called Our Center. And I believe they have a youth group that meets weekly. Yes, if not more than once a week, at least once a week. But it's called Our Center. They're doing great work. They actually just hired their first full-time position. Before that, it was completely volunteer ran. So.
Oh, great. Well, make sure you put the links in the chat for how we can donate the candy and any other ways that we can help out. That sounds great.
Yes, absolutely.
But hang on. We'll probably have some questions, but I want to go to the next speaker, and then we'll see if we have any other questions. But we've also have Nevada State Senator Melanie Scheibel here. She's been an ally in the legislature for progressive issues as long as I've known her, and we've met several times at Gender Justice Office and in Carson City, and we've invited Senator Scheibel to hear the legislative part and how that can, how that'll protect our rights, and with what's happening with the Supreme Court and what's happening, with politics these days. So thank you, Senator, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always love speaking at NOW events. And it is great to see so many people on Zoom today. There's obviously interest in this issue, and that means that people care. And so I couldn't be happier to know that, and more encouraged to know that. Like Jerry said, I am a member of the state Senate. I'm the chair of the Judiciary Committee. So I've served in the Senate since 2018. I'm currently up for re-election, and I've served in 2 different sessions where I've worked on a number of bills that, I think all bills affect LGBTQ people, and I challenged anybody to find a bill that didn't, and maybe there was, but we tend to be in every sector of society. We're in every industry. We live in every part of Nevada. You really can't pass a bill that doesn't affect the LGBTQ community. But of course, there are also issues that affect us more poignantly, or we, want to have a stronger voice in certain areas. We want to have better representation in different areas. And so I've worked on a number of bills with Nevada Now, with Silver State Equality, with the Human Rights Campaign, with Gender Justice, to make sure that all Nevadans are seen equally under the law. And I don't always get to be like a silver lining in a time of dark, stormy weather, but I can say that Nevada is like a great place from a legal standpoint to be gay, to have a uterus, or to need an abortion. Like, if any of those things apply to you, Nevada is a good place legally to be. Culturally, there's always work to be done here and elsewhere. But over the last 20 years, I would say, Nevada has made huge strides in protecting LGBTQ people, especially trans people and non-binary people under the law. Again, not saying that we're done. We have a lot of work to do, but Nevada is a place where you actually can't be discriminated against in employment based on your sexual orientation or gender identity. And that is huge because that is not a federally protected class. That is not a federally protected right to have, to be able to go through a job interview and have nobody ask you about your sexual orientation or your gender expression. But in Nevada, that is protected by law because, we as a legislature thought that was important. And that was before my time. You can thank David Parks for that one. Those laws were passed 20, 30 years ago. And we continue to work on legislation that helps all Nevadans. We touched earlier today, I think, on the Nevada Equal Rights Amendment. And so for those of you who don't know, there are two things that we refer to as the Equal Rights Amendment. There is the one on the federal level, which was first passed in 1972, I think, and then had to be ratified by 38 states. And it has its own fascinating history, if you ask me. And then just last year in Nevada, we passed through the legislature an amendment that would append the Nevada Constitution, not the federal Constitution, but just the state Constitution. And that's going to be going to a vote of the people also on this ballot in 2022. And so here in Nevada, we have worked with our federal partners to get federal protections for all people. And then we've worked at the state level to ensure state level protections for all people. Since, we are talking about the upcoming Roe decision, there are just a couple of things that I want to make sure everybody on this call knows and that you can share with your friends. The first one is that abortion is still legal. So if you know anybody who is currently going through an unplanned or an unwanted or a non-viable pregnancy who wants to terminate that pregnancy, they can still do it legally. The second thing I want people to know is that will still be the case in Nevada. Overturning Roe v. Wade does not ban abortions in the United States. It allows states to ban abortions. So there are places in the United States where those bans will be automatic. They will kick in the day that Roe is overturned. There are other places where I know we will have boots on the ground fighting against people who want to implement those bans. And then there will be places like Nevada that don't have a ban, don't have, triggering language in their constitution or their statutes. And to the contrary, Nevada actually protects the right to an abortion in statute and in the Constitution. So you will still be able to get an abortion in Nevada even after Roe is overturned. Now, I don't say that to minimize the effect of overturning Roe. I say that because I think that makes us a really important player in the national politics that are going to unfold in the coming months. Now, we don't currently have enough abortion providers to even serve all of the people who currently live in Nevada who are currently seeking abortions. So I'm really scared about how we're going to help our neighbors in Utah and Arizona and Idaho, where it's going to become significantly harder from a legal perspective for individuals there to access reproductive care and specifically abortions. So I think that's why we're on this call. We're working on it now. We're thinking, we're talking, we're coming up with ways that we can be good allies to other states that don't have as progressive legislatures as we do, to ensure that everybody we can possibly help to access, affordable and safe reproductive and sexual health care, we do. And I think that I'm really excited to see so many people here interested in working on these issues. And I don't want to take too much time. I'll gladly answer questions or go into more detail on any of those things.
So I have a question, Melanie. When you talk about that, I've heard conflicting things, and you sound like you might be able to answer my question. If there is a federal law banning abortion, does that override our Nevada laws that are in place?
Well, there's currently not a federal law that bans abortions. So
what they're thinking is that after the next election, should we lose the Senate and Congress, and if something should happen, and that seems to be their intent, are we still safe?
So I never thought I would make this comparison, but it will end up being kind of like cannabis, which is still prohibited on the federal level. There's only so much the feds can do to stop us from allowing it in our state and continuing to regulate it in our state, but they can certainly stop us from importing, exporting, affecting, what goes on in other states. And like we've seen with cannabis, there also have been decisions on the part of federal agencies not to prosecute people and agencies and governments in Nevada that allow cannabis use. But they also can't, they can't stop a city or a state from passing an ordinance or passing a law, especially because, again, the law surrounding cannabis is not constitutional. That's in statute. And that will be the same with an abortion ban, because the Constitution doesn't say anything about abortion. So again, it won't. So even if somebody were to take up a Nevada law allowing abortions to the Supreme Court, you wouldn't have those constitutional questions. It would be a statute question. And so, it may be wishful thinking on my part that we would be able to continue to protect abortion access in Nevada. And I'm going to continue with that optimistic thinking on it, but also because I don't think that we should give up. No matter what happens on the federal level, I'm just not willing to sit down and roll over and say, okay, we're done. You're just stuck.
That's sort of encouraging.
Yeah,
semi encouraging. Sai has their hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say that when the anti-LGBT laws started surfacing at the beginning of this year, there was a continuation really of 2021, but then we started them just being dumped in every single state. I called up my friends at HRC. I called up friends at ACLU. I called up friends who work in other states doing, queer-centered activism. And one of my texts went to Melanie. And I said, please tell me this is not coming here. She knows a little bit more about, the legislature here than I do. And I said, please tell me. And I believe your words, Melanie, were, we will not tolerate that shit here. Something like that. And because we have those protections in place, because, yes, because of David Parks and because a lot of the work that was done 20 years ago. And we are now seen as a safe haven for trans youth, and that's incredible. And I'm sure Percy's probably seen an uptick in families coming in from other states. And I think we're going to start to see that when we look at abortion too. But I just want to say that through all of this madness and chaos and stress, the fact that we have lawmakers like Melanie who are like, nope, you know what? We don't do that here. So I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, yes. And it's true. I stand by that statement. I think that we've really kind of scared some of the conservatives into submission. And so they don't even try it here. Because they know that they're not only are they not getting anywhere, they're not even going to get traction with it. They're not going to get the publicity that they want. And I'm sure that there are corners of Nevada where people go back to their constituents and they could, get a crowd and, whip a crowd into a frenzy with some anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. I know that happens, but on the state level, they are so far outnumbered that, we get to say, no, not in Nevada.
That is encouraging. Thank you. And we are proud of the work we've done here. I agree. So Eva, do you see any questions that we should get to before we're going to go to the Nevada NOW PAC portion of the program? You're on mute.
I don't see any other questions.
I see a lot of we're not giving up and we won't tolerate that.
Yeah, so exactly. and I just put the thing in that that's why we've got to get everybody out to vote in this next election, because we don't want to lose our Democratic majority that is protecting us.
Absolutely. And I think that's where, Sai, we were saying we can be allies on all issues and maybe get everybody out to vote for all different reasons. So thank you. So we're going to go, Sue's going to take over now, and we've been working on our Nevada NOW PAC endorsed candidates, and from now on, our programs are going to include a piece on introducing them. So Sue, you're on.
I am on. I am here. Great discussion, but I think I heard someone from California say that California, like Nevada, is fairly well protected, but the one speaker said she's there fighting against the apathy around this issue. The years and years and years of people saying, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. And I think that's my battle cry right now, that none of us can say this enough, that we've got to talk to people, educate them. This is happening, and the ripple effect is scary. And so I just ask, the sample ballots are arriving, and I ask everybody, drag your friends to the polling place. And with that, working on the PAC, we've been working our tails off to endorse candidates that are pro-choice. And the good news is for the very, very first time, we are going to have a voter's guide for the primary candidates. We've endorsed a whole bunch of candidates, but not all of them are having a primary. So we're going to have a primary candidate list of endorsements that will be available as a PDF to print and, stick it in your ballot, hang it on the wall. I don't care, to help guide you. And the one thing that we decided this year, this is only our second election cycle of endorsing candidates with the PAC. We've endorsed before. But the one thing we decided to do this time around is be ambitious with our endorsements and go top to bottom as much as we possibly could. Yes, it's making me a little dingy from interviewing, but we haven't interviewed judicial candidates and city candidates and all kinds of people. So when we were putting this program together and for the subject matter, I said, yeah, let's get district attorney candidate and a couple of judicial candidates on here. So I am very pleased to say that we have Clark County District Attorney candidate Ozzie Fumo here, and we have two judicial candidates. We have Augusta Massey, who is running for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 6, and we have Courtney Ketter, who is running for North Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 2. All three are proudly endorsed by Nevada Now. So I'm gonna start with Ozzie. And the question to all three of our candidates here is, tell us about the office you're running for and why it's important, and then why are you running for this office? Ozzie?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you and the privilege of your time. I really appreciate it. My name is Ozzie Fumo. I'm running to be your next Clark County District Attorney. I've been practicing law in Las Vegas for the last 27 years. I teach at the law school. I teach opening statements and closing arguments. I teach trial advocacy, and I teach pretrial criminal litigation. And when I'm talking to my students about opening statements, I tell them, give me a reason to care. Why should I care about your side of this case? And why I'm here to tell you why you should care about this is because the district attorney's office will affect you at one point or another in your life. Whether it's the criminal division, the civil division, the juvenile division, or the child support division, it will touch you or somebody you know immediately. And you need somebody on there who thinks about we the people and not we the privileged. For instance, this overturning of Ray, and Melanie made a great point, the R's are all about states' rights. And I don't think that they are going to make it a federal law that bans abortion everywhere, but it's more than that. It's about women's health care. It's about doing the right thing for women. It's not just abortion, it's the health care for women everywhere, and that affects everybody everywhere. And one of the things that the district attorney's office, not just like I said, criminal, civil, the juvenile, but the child support, I will tell you right now that if they bring out this decision the way I think it's going to come out, I will change things and go to the legislature of Clark County, because right now the way we collect child support is after the child is born and there's a DNA test done. I would lobby the district attorney's office to start getting women's health care paid for by the other party, by the man who impregnated them, at the time of conception. That's when they say life begins. That's when child health care begins. And that's when we're going to start going after people right at the beginning. And so these young men that think they can go around impregnating women and moving on to the next person, that stops now. There's things like that we can actively do, progressively do to help women with this healthcare decision. And it's an important race because of things like that, because I care about the people of Nevada, not the rich and powerful of Nevada. I care about every single person. I want everybody to be treated with fairness and dignity throughout the process. So that's one of the things I will commit to you to doing. And we need to get the word out. I'm so happy that you have a voter's guide. I would say text your friends, call your friends, get the word out to everybody you can, because this election is so important. Because if we don't make a change in that office, it's going to just be bad from here on out, especially if we think the decision that's coming out is going to be the way I think it is going to come out. I think, Percy, when you were speaking, I wrote down two things before I got on. It was people feel unsafe and mental health care issues in Clark County, and you nailed them both. So thank you very much for that. Those are the two of the big things. So one of the things I want to do is protect victims' rights too. I'm hearing a lot from victims advocate. We had a super walk yesterday. I had two people, support staff for the Clark County District Attorney's Office, walking with me, telling me they had 4 people quit just last week. They've got victim advocates answering phones, playing receptionists. They don't have enough people in there, and it is causing a mental health problem within the office right now as well. So I'm hearing from people inside how bad it is in that office, and I want to change the culture. I want to change the perception, and I want to get out in the community and work with you. A lot of times I am out at, say, the government center, and I see the public defenders having tables, Clark County Law Society has a table, but you never see anything from the district attorney's office. I want to get the district attorneys out there and be a partner in the community and not some elitist organization. I want to make sure that we partner up with the defense bar and not see them as the enemy, but rather a community partner in making Clark County better for everybody. Like I said, I've been doing trial work for the last 27 years. I'm actually in the middle of a trial right now. I picked a jury last week and did my opening statement tomorrow morning, so I might be brief with you. But I've done more trials than the current district attorney's done. I've done more trials in the last 6 months than I think the current district attorney's done in the last 35 years. I know for the last 10 that he's been a district attorney, he has not one time picked up a file and marched into court to argue for somebody. The teacher who was just sexually assaulted in the attempted murder, I was offended when I saw him sitting in the court watching a deputy argue the case. If I have the time to be in there watching the deputy, God damn it, I'm going to pick up the file and argue the case myself. Excuse my language. But to watch somebody else and have somebody else do that while you're sitting on your hands is just unacceptable. You know, you want to walk the walk, talk the talk, do the work. And right now we don't have a district attorney who's doing that. I commit to you that I will. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for the privilege of your time. I really appreciate it.
Fire it up, Ozzy. Fire it up. I love it.
I don't miss one.
I love it. We need that. We need that fire. So everybody take that fire to your friends and family, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters what the Congress does, and we need that. We still need that support and that majority, but it also matters what we do here, right where we're sitting, from the top to, I see Linda Cavazos is on here, down to the school board, to the city elections. And I told you I'm feisty. I'm fired up. If I could just load you all in my car and take you to our ballots and brunch, I would. But
Sandra has a question.
Yeah, you won't all fit. Who does?
Sandra has a question.
Sandra, go for it. I know Sandra's putting the stuff in the chat.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually a question. Hey, Ozzy.
Hey.
So for whatever reason, the sheriff's race is nonpartisan, but the DA race is partisan in Clark County. So that means in a closed primary, anybody that's registered nonpartisan isn't going to see Ozzy on their ballot. So that's when I always get my college students are like, wait, where's Ozzy? He's not on my ballot. And then we have to explain voter registration. But because we have up to the time you cast a ballot, you can update your voter registration and party affiliation. Anybody can go into the online portal still right now and change their party affiliation. They might not get a sample ballot, but they would get a mail-in ballot, and they definitely can vote in person. But that's going to be an issue for some people that are Ozzy supporters if they don't understand that that's a partisan race.
Yeah, we have same-day registration out here, so you can register. I've had a lot of people tell me the exact same thing. You know, my family's a Democrat. I saw you on their primary, but I'm a nonpartisan, and so I'm encouraging anybody who cares about this race in particular, who wants to see a change in the district attorney's office, to please go out there and do that. I've had actually, you would think that because the Republicans have so many people in the governor's race that they'd really want to vote for the governor. I've had about 5 Republicans tell me they've actually changed their party affiliation to Democrat just so they can vote in this primary. which isn't a lot, but it's significant for being a Republican. You think they'd want to vote for governor, but the nonpartisans, independents, we need to get them out, because if they really care about this race, and I know everybody does, because like I said, it's going to affect you at one point or another in your life, and probably already has. Encourage them to change to Democrat, especially for this race, and then they can go back to whatever they want for the general, because they won't even see us on the ballot if they don't.
But yes, if you have friends, family that are registered as independents, or however it comes out, get them to change just for this primary, if nothing else.
And you want someone that's going to be accountable to the people. You want someone that's going to be able to come on these shows and talk to people. You know, the law school told me in January or December, they tried to get a debate together, and Wolfson refused to even respond to their emails. Then the ACLU, the Black Caucus, and the NAACP tried to put something together, and Wolfson had conditions before he would debate me. One was that it had to be a virtual audience, no audience participation. Reluctantly, I said yes. His second condition, believe it or not, was that he gets the questions 2 weeks ahead of time, and I don't get to hear them until the evening of the debate when they're asked to me for the first time. Reluctantly, I said yes. And his third condition was that he got to know where the location of the debate was going to be ahead of time, but I wasn't going to find out until 2 hours prior to the debate. Reluctantly, I said yes. And then the morning of the debate, he texts somebody, or the organizers, and says, I don't feel safe. You know, your number one job is to protect this community and the safety of this community. And if you don't feel safe in your own community, you're admitting to the people you've lied.
Well, Ozzy and Sandra, just your little couple seconds about changing registrations. Flora on here just changed from an independent to a Democrat, just to vote for you, Ozzy. So there you go. Rock on.
Thanks for your time.
I did. That's right.
That's awesome. I'm going to go next to one of my favorite people these days, even though I don't know her very well, but Augusta Massey, who is running for Las Vegas Justice Court, Department 6. Again, tell us why your court is important, what your court does, why it's important, and why are you running?
All right. Thank you so much, Sue. And I do love you. And I love Nevada Now. And just to see the immediate action that has been taken. And I think this is why this group is so important and is so necessary. And to see change happening in real time and happening right now. So thank you so much for all the hard work you do. And thank you so much for your endorsement. I do not take it for granted. My name is Augusta Massey. I am running to be your next judge in Las Vegas Justice Court, Department 6. I am originally from Nigeria. I joke around, I say that's where my sexy accent comes from, just a little touch sprinkled in there. I left Nigeria because my dad was murdered in front of me. I came to the United States because I wanted to start afresh as a teenager. Unfortunately, within a few months of being in the United States, my brother was killed by a drunk driver. We were in Memphis, Tennessee. My brother was 12 years old. He was in middle school. Edgar was walking home from school when this lady had been drinking, and she hit him. She hit him so hard and so fast, he flew 8 to 9 feet in the air. His best friend, Malcolm, died on the spot. My brother died in the hospital a couple of days later. I never got a chance to see him speak again. He never got a chance to live that American dream. But from this experience, I got to deal with the law a lot. I had immigration going on because I was a new immigrant. There was the DUI case against the lady who hit and killed my brother. And we also decided to then sue the government because there were no speed bumps, there were no sidewalks, nothing that would have prevented her from going so fast. And maybe my brother would have been alive today. So accountability matters. It matters to me. From that experience, we won. And I saw the impact that law can have on our communities. I saw what good judges and bad judges and what they can do to a life, to a generation, to a community. Today, there's a memorial there for my brother. There are speed bumps, there are sidewalks. I know now that other families, other young boys, 12-year-old boys and girls like my brother are protected. And this is what made me so passionate about law. I have 2 engineering degrees. I did not use it. After the death of my brother, I went back to school to become an attorney. Is the reason why I practice, and a lot of the areas I've chosen in civil law is because I love helping families. I'm passionate about explaining to them how our system works and helping them because I've been on the other side of the bench. And it's the reason now why I am running. People usually, don't pay attention to elections, or when they do, they pay attention to those at the top of the ballot, the governor, and things like that. People usually ignore judges, but judicial races matter for the simple reason that a judge usually is one of the most important people you will see on some of the worst days of your life. Think about it. You have a criminal case, and it's a judge who will order your sentence. If you are going through divorce, it's the judge who will order alimony or tell you how much rights you'll have to see your children. Judges are important, and it is very critical that we elect the right people to the bench. And we can see, even with our Supreme Court justices, and they started out just like we are in an election and got appointed and got to that place. And so it's important that you're looking at your ballots all the way down to the bottom and making sure that you are reading and informing yourself so that when you get into the voting booth, you are just as informed as all the races, including judicial races. So the particular seat I'm running for is a civil bench at this time. And what does that mean? It means that I will not necessarily listen to criminal matters. I will be dealing with more eviction matters. And so why is that important? I have over 14 years of experience as an attorney. I have run my own law firm for the last 10 years as a small business owner, just listening to this type of cases. I am an eviction mediator. I have been a judge pro tem for the last 6 years. I was the president of the Las Vegas National Bar Association, the oldest and largest association of African American and judges. Last year, we broke records. We made history. We raised over $80,000 and gave away $40,000 to minority law students who want to stay in Las Vegas, who want to help our community. And folks, this is how we bring change. When we say representation matters, we need a pool, right, to have people who can represent us and be reflective of the community. So the work I've been doing has really been in that vein. I sit on the United States Commission for Civil Rights with Dr. Cosgrove, and just have been in the community. And so when I ask people to really look at the judicial ballots, go beyond the campaign websites, Google people, research them, see who supports them, like this wonderful PAC, who supports you, who do you support? And then you can begin to really tell what kind of a person this judge is. As judges, we can't sit here and say, I promise to rule like this, and I promise to do this and that, but I can promise you that I will be fair, I will be just, I will be impartial, and I will really, really follow the law. But in the places where I have discretion, my experiences as a woman, as a Black woman, as an immigrant, as a person who has been running and working in this community for the last 14 years, I will be bringing all of that to the bench. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Augusta. And I asked Ozzy to put his campaign info in the chat. I'm asking Augusta and Courtney to do the same thing. These candidates could use your help. Check out their websites. I know Ozzy has a Wednesday night phone bank. The more the merrier. But check out their websites. Reach out to them. See how you can help. Either making phone calls or canvassing, or as we've done, write postcards. Whatever it takes. We need to get these people elected. So thank you, Augusta. Thank you, Ozzy. Courtney, last but not least is Courtney Ketter, running for North Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 2.
Yes. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Jerry. One of the things that I've been saying throughout this campaign process, the best part about it is the wonderful organizations and people that I have met, that I will be continuing to work with, win or lose. And Nevada Now definitely falls in that category. The work that you guys do is just amazing. Seeing the rally, the pictures from it yesterday. It was amazing how quickly you guys were able to put that together. So thank you for all that you do. I'm running for North Las Vegas Municipal Court Judge in Department 2. What this department does is they oversee criminal matters that happen in the city of North Las Vegas. So that may be domestic violence cases, that may be DUIs, it may also be petty matters such as trespass, petty larceny, and as of 2023, it'll be restricted to serious traffic matters. why I'm running is quite simple. And Sai spoke about this earlier. We need people in these positions that have the ability and the desire to relate to everyone, not just a small minority, quite frankly. At this point, I think we all recognize that we are the majority. The majority of people believe that the rights of everyone should be respected. And Sai talked about the need for us to partner up. I've long believed that people that have a desire to marginalize and subjugate one group, they don't stop at one group. They're going to go on to every group that they can. And so that's why when word of Roe came out, we all should be worried. You know, myself as a Black man, I'm worried. I'm worried for my friends. I'm worried for my friends that fall into groups that I know that they're coming for. And that's why I'm running, because we need judges that want to, number one, be fair and impartial, treat everyone that comes before them with respect and dignity. And number two, that want to partner with the community. Too often, judges withdraw from the community after they are elected. You don't see them. You don't hear from them. It's impossible for you to reach out to them. I'm not going to do that. I've always been part of the community. I've been a volunteer basketball coach. I've been a truth and diversion judge from 2014 until 2020 at Legacy High School, Jim Bridger Middle School, and John C. Fremont Middle School. And if you know anything about those schools, you know that those schools are in traditionally, quote unquote, underserved environments. Those are schools where you're going to have a lot of Black and brown kids. And I chose those schools. I had the ability to volunteer at any school. I chose those schools because I thought it was important that those kids see someone that looks like them, that has quote unquote made it, that has been successful, and can share with them that through hard work and opportunity, key word in there is opportunity, they can do the same. And I want to touch on that for a minute, because I also believe in opportunity for people that are dealing with nonviolent crimes. Crime isn't always, some crazy person running around. Too often it's a symptom of something greater: mental health issues, a lack of resources, substance abuse issues. We have to be willing to give people the opportunity to address those underlying issues. That's how we can keep recidivism down, is by addressing those issues. What I want to do is I want to really continue to bolster the CARE Court, which is the diversion court that North Las Vegas started in 2021. Unfortunately, the judges that are overseeing it now, they've been rather, how can I put this? They haven't really opened it up. They haven't really opened up and allowed the community to hear what they're doing and really embrace the community. I want to change that, because at the end of the day, community partnership is how we can truly address underlying issues. If we're just going to do with everything that we've been doing, locking people up and trying to keep the community isolated from judges, that's not going to work. We see that now. We see the rising crime. We see that model does not work. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is just do the research, check the receipts, as they say. Again, I've always been part of the community, and this is just the next step in that. That's why I'm running, because I just want to continue my community service, and I want to be that representative. I want to be someone that can bring us together rather than divide. More often than not, we have more things that in common as a people than we do that divide us. However, we know that there are certain groups that they want to play on those small things to keep us divided. I'm not going to do that. My courtroom is not going to be a courtroom where division is focused on. It's going to be one, again, for opportunity, accessibility, and accountability. And so I have a very unique race in that in North Las Vegas, when they changed their charter recently, the primary election is it. So June 14th is it for me. There will be no general election. So that's why I need your help to win this seat. So that I can, if you believe in everything that I've just said, if you believe in that cause, then support me. Early voting starts May 28th. The primary election, is June 14th. And so come out, knock doors with me, donate whatever you can. We can do this. We can make this change. Thank you.
That was just awesome. That was awesome. Again, if you guys aren't fired up by now, I don't know what to do for you. I mean, I truly don't. But we are going to continue this with all our meetings to bring on candidates. We don't have a whole lot of time before the primary. But yeah, watch for our voter guide that should be out posted on our website by the end of the week. I've got it about halfway done. And we're going to be making more endorsements this week. We're going to finish it up. We've got about 6 or 7 more people to talk to. So we're really trying to, branch out as far as we can. So yeah, and again, if you like any of these candidates, reach out to them. Reach out to us at the board of Nevada Now. No, it's going to be a paper one, Anna. It's going to be a PDF. You can print. You can do whatever you want with it.
Anna can make it paper. She can print it out and
print it out, post it, and paste it on your walls. I don't, make a paper airplanes. I don't care. But it is going to be available, and I'm kind of proud. One of our board members suggested that we do this, and I said, okay. But now I'm really having talked to people over the last couple of weeks. I see the absolute importance of it, and now is the time. And I'm not trying to make a pun, but now is the time.
So now is our hashtag.
Vote now is our hashtag. So yeah, let me just put that in there. So if you're posting anything. Like I'm real good on this. I'm turning it over to you, Jerry.
I know. I'm taking a point of personal privilege, and I'm turning it to, it's funny because Senator Spearman has her hand up. So I was hoping Senator Spearman could finish off our program with a topic that we started it off with Senator, can you hear us? I can't see you, so.
I can hear you.
Great. So and then you can ask your question as well, but we were at the rally yesterday. I know it had several things to go to, so you weren't able to make it. And then Samantha Glover was up in Reno as well and has started a Generation Ratify chapter here in Nevada. So I don't know if you heard that part at the beginning of the program. But in both cases, when we spoke about the ERA, be it the national or the state ERA, there was just crickets. A lot of young women were there. A lot of people, Samantha and I both, and Sue, noticed that people still don't know about it. And just kind of because I saw you were on the program, I wanted to take a moment to ask you. I know you've been on a lot of programs. We're hearing that a lot of the activists are saying that the ERA will help with abortion, that there are lots of issues that having the Equal Rights Amendment in the federal and in the state will make a difference. And I know you have lots of opinions on this, and I'd like to hear it.
Thank you, Jerry, and thanks everybody. I apologize. These days, the schedule is kind of busy, and sometimes I feel like I have to schedule when to inhale and exhale. But
I forgot to say that in case you don't know, the senator is running for North Las Vegas mayor, and we have endorsed her. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I don't know how many of you all got a mailer from the person who is in the race, the same race that Courtney's in. And just one word, despicable. It's a clear dog whistle. It's a portion there that says compare the candidates, and it shows his opponent as a dignified white man, and it has a picture of him that looks like it's been some kind of Photoshop, but it's clearly after he's been working or whatever, and the way that they photoshopped it to make it look like he's very, very dark and almost like a gorilla. That's a mailer. And so that's all you need to know about the other person that's in the race. Sometimes you don't have to say who's supporting you. All you got to do is act like you got the same feathers. Okay. The next thing I want to say is this, and I'll get to the ERA. So in 2020, the people of Nevada voted to enshrine the HAVA Voter Rights, Help America Vote Act, those rights voted to put them in the Constitution. And I'm asking everybody who is affiliated with any organization that you work with people and you're talking about voting, et cetera, please, please, please get a copy of, I think it's like 13 or 14 things in there. You got a right to stay in line. You know, if you're there at 7, you got a right to ask questions, you know, and get them answered. If something is wrong with your ballot, you got a right to get. And so all of those things that you saw when you would go into the polling places, they would be up and say you have a right to. Those are now part of the Nevada state constitution. And that means that if anybody's messing with you and violating one of those, it's not just violating the statute, it's violating the Constitution of the state of Nevada. And so make sure people are armed with that information when they go into the booth. I started that process in 2013 when the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act and took the BDR in 15. The Republicans were in charge and they wouldn't hear it, but we brought it back in 17 and we quietly passed it and brought it back in 19 and quietly passed it again. And according to Nevada State Constitution, in order to change it, it has to pass 2 consecutive legislative sessions and then go to the people. And I mention that because there are some things that may be making their way through the legislature. But if it's a constitutional change, you got to make sure that you have the same legislature in place 2 consecutive times if you want to get it passed. If not, you got to start all over again. So let me say this about the ERA. We were not talking a lot about what the connection between the ERA and reproductive rights at one point in time. The ERA clearly is one of those things because you have an equal right to have full spectrum of healthcare. And really that's what this is. When we talk about reproductive rights and, you know, I see Senator Scheibel here and she'll tell you, I love it when the folks on the other side of the aisle start talking about the sanctity of life. And then they don't want to put more money into education. And they don't want to put more money into healthcare. And my term for that, if all you care about is what's in the womb and not what it looks like when the child comes out, then you are not a quote right to life person. What you are is a womb worshiper. Okay, because it's only sanctified when it's in the womb, and it means nothing to you once the baby is born. And so I challenge them all the time on that. The Equal Rights Amendment is one of those. This is something that must get done in our lifetime. It must get done in our lifetime. If we had that already, there are so many things that we would already be, we would not have to be going state by state to get pay equity. We wouldn't have to be going state by state. You know, as Ozzy was talking about, you know, the district attorney matters, wouldn't have to be going state by state to make sure that the laws that are applicable to quote prostitutes are the same laws that are applicable to the Johns. If you understand what I'm saying, we've got to make sure that this happens because one fell swoop. We could have taken HAVA, the Help America Vote Act. We could have taken those things out of the statute, 2 or 3 of them out and put them into the Constitution, or just maybe highlighted them or elevated them. But one legislature cannot bind a succeeding legislature. And so without a constitutional amendment, then everything that we have right now is subject to change based upon who is in control of the legislative bodies. Everything is subject to change. Something that I know, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine a couple of days ago with regard to LGBTQ rights. Said, you know, once upon a time, people didn't think that LGBTQ rights were as prominent or as important as the civil rights. So it is. It's the same thing. The thing that people have to understand is in the 60s and the 70s, when in the height of the civil rights movement, everybody was fired up and ready to go. Everybody was making sure that they were diligent about voting. Everybody was making sure that they were diligent about vetting candidates. They were making sure that they were diligent about keeping the rights that we already had. And then once we got to a certain level, the civil rights fight that we were in, came back seat because people thought we had already arrived. Okay. But if you're on your way to Chicago, when you see the sign that says, welcome to Illinois, you still ain't there. You still ain't there. And so we are not there yet. And we cannot give up this fight. We cannot, because I believe the next thing that's going to be challenged it will be marriage equality. I think the next thing that will be challenged, if you follow the CRT debate, you know, the next thing is going to be challenged. Ground the Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas. Watch what I'm telling you, because it's the same institutional body that in, I want to say it was 1898 that decided Plessy versus Ferguson, and then the one in 1954, same institutional body. The difference was the makeup of the body. And so all of those things that we have taken for granted right now, all of those things are on the line. And so this time it is important that you get out and vote, and make sure that you get your family members out to vote, your friends, your enemies. I don't care who it is. If they stop long enough at the ice cream parlor, then say, hey, are you registered to vote? And we have same day voter registration. And so that is important. The Equal Rights Amendment, not only at the federal level, but that is on the ballot for the state this time. We must pass that and know without a shadow of a doubt, the people on the other side, they're going to turn their folks out. They're going to turn their folks out. The people that are voting for the person who sent that racist mail, they're going to turn their folks out, because that's what that mailer was designed to do. It was designed to incite white supremacists. That's what it was designed to do. Make no mistake about it. There's no apology for it. And there's no explanation or no excuse for something like that happening in the year 2022. And so voting has got to take place this time. We always say that this is the most important election. And I hear people saying, well, y'all say that all the time. But you know what we say it all the time? We say it all the time because every time we make one step forward, some other folks that don't want us to be there try to take us 2 steps back. And so we've got to make every election, every office, every time, it has got to matter to us. And if it doesn't, we will find the rights that we've taken for granted. We will find them being eroded. The reason that it's important for the DA, and I'll just say this, and Ozzy won't tell you this, but I have received calls from people who had a family member or a friend that was in trouble or had some sort of thing going on that they needed legal help. And I would call Ozzy. I don't know whatever happened. I just know that the person would call me back and say, thank you. And so many times he has done this in the middle of the night without fanfare, without glory, without any of that stuff. Okay. And someone who will do that when there is no notoriety, you know that when they have the office that backs them up, you know already what they will do, because getting into the office doesn't change who you are. It simply reveals who you are. The reason we've got to make sure that we've got judges like Courtney and Augusta is because this is where the folks who are in the Supreme Court, this is where they started. And so we've got to make sure we're paying attention. We are not in Chicago yet. We simply saw the sign that said, welcome to Illinois. We cannot give up this fight, because this is not what we came here for. And we don't give up, and we don't quit, and we don't leave until we get what we came here for. And equality at every level is what we came here for. Nothing short, nothing less. We will not stop until we get exactly what we want. Equality and equity. And then we're not going to stop. You know what? Because we're going to have to protect it. But right now, the first leg of the journey, equality and equity. Let's go for it. Don't give up. We can't afford it.
I don't think I could say it any better. I mean,
you just thought you were fired up before.
I thought I was. I was.
She's just added to it. And I think Anna has a question, and then I'm passing it back to you, Sue.
Okay. Anna, did you have a question? Anna?
No, I probably hit it by accident. I'm so sorry.
Okay. We just want to make sure we
yeah, no, my sound went low, and then I tried to fix it, and I was touching a bunch of buttons, and I probably touched that by accident. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to hear from everybody, though.
Okay. I do want to, number one, I want to thank all our guests that were on here today. I do want to thank Courtney, Augusta, and Ozzy for being on here, but I do want to point out that there's other candidates on here that are also Nevada Now PAC endorsed. I mentioned Linda Cavazos running for CCSD trustee. I don't remember the department, the district. I want to say G. I was going to guess G. Thank you, Sandra. I try to have these things memorized. We also have Assemblywoman Venetia Considine and Assemblywoman Claire Thomas on here. And I'm very proud to have endorsed them. Melanie Scheibel does not have a primary. So if I'm leaving her out, it's because she doesn't have a primary and we haven't gotten there yet. So thank you all for being here. I hope everybody's learned something. I hope you're all fired up. I don't know how you can't after hearing Senator Spearman and all our guests. So now I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jerry.
Well, thanks. So if we don't have any other questions in there, Eva, are we been covering as we go? We'll be saying goodbye to everybody and thanking them for joining us.
I'm sorry, I left off Nathan Anderson and I didn't.
Oh, Nathan's here. Oh,
sorry, baby.
Nathan, sorry about that.
But you don't have a primary either, do you?
I don't.
No. Okay.
That was a good program. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Venetia says she does. She has a primary.
Venetia has a primary?
I think I just saw her say that.
No, she doesn't.
No.
Apologies. I meant to write that I do not have a primary.
Oh, okay.
That one I definitely know does not have it.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I'm trying to multitask.
That's okay. Good to see you, Venetia. We saw you yesterday too. So you've been.
I have a primary. We can win at 50 plus 1.
Yes,
we know you have a primary. So yeah, if
you and Ozzy were two of our first endorsements.
Two of our first endorsements. So if you've got good walking shoes and you're up in North Las Vegas, go canvass for Senator Spearman and Courtney Ketter. If you still like to walk, you can walk for Ozzy and Augusta. But we got to make this happen, people. We just have to make this happen.
Let us know how you want to volunteer. We're doing phone banks and canvassing, and we're writing postcards. A lot of people on this call have been writing postcards for candidates for us. So just send us an email at info@nevadanow.org and let us know how you want to help, because we need everybody. And if you're a candidate, what help you want us to, if you have, like, I know Ozzy's been working with Spencer on how to canvass, and Senator Spearman, we're looking at, I think there's one on Saturday coming up, next Saturday, for canvassing for Senator Spearman. There's a phone bank tomorrow night, Senator Spearman. So there's lots to do. Just let us know how you want to help.